I ended up getting a job at the University of Toronto, okay? And I was just about to move over, and I was in the job of trying to interview people who are going to be working on my team and looking at where to buy a house and looking where the kids are going to go to school and things like that. And the university put on a meeting, which was to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the mental health service in the area, and the 75th anniversary of the University Department of Psychiatry. And this was the year 2000, okay? And they asked me along to give a talk, and there was a distinguished bunch of people on the program who were all giving talks about various aspects of it. And it was an overview of the field, you know, just where we'd come from and where the drugs had come from and what the key issues were, okay? And in the middle of it, I said, look, you know, there's a big issue here. I've been an expert witness, and I've got to see things that the rest of you haven't seen. Now, I believe SSRIs can cause people to become suicidal, and most of you here in the room probably don't believe that. But part of the reason is I've seen things that you haven't seen. Okay, and if we're actually going to resolve this, we all need to be able to look at the same stuff. Okay, so I didn't force anyone to think the same way as me. I just said there's an issue about we can't access the data. Okay, later that evening, I found out that in essence I was going to be fired. I mean, I'd been hired, but I was now going to be fired. Okay, and it's an interesting one to try and work out quite what happened. I mean, which of the companies were behind it all, because one of the key issues at this point was that I was involved in a different case, which was a man who had gone on Paxil, okay? And 48 hours after he'd gone on Paxil, he'd shot his wife 3 times in the head, shot his daughter 3 times in the head, shot his granddaughter 3 times in the head before he killed himself.
Wow.
Okay? And this was in, I think, Cheyenne was where they had the trial. But ultimately, you know, this isn't a bunch of people who are left-wing and liberals and things like that. This is, you know, solid people who are not inclined to let people off the hook for things that happen, but they blame the pharmaceutical company. Okay.
Wow.
In the middle of all this, I mean, me actually getting fired was a few months before I was due to be the expert witness in this case. So I had no option but to, well, I mean, I figured I had no option but to go out there and tell the media, look, I've been fired by the University of Toronto, okay? And GSK, who are the company involved in the case, then filed with the court for saying, we don't want this court case to involve anything to do with Healy and the University of Toronto. My thinking had been that, well, if I didn't do that, the first question on the witness stand would have been, well, haven't you just been fired by the University of Toronto?
Right.
You know, so the good side to all this was being an expert witness was you got into the archives of, you know, the pharmaceutical companies, GSK, Pfizer, Lilly, and things like this. And you got to see things that were interesting. You got to see the contracts between the companies and the ghostwriting agencies who are going to ghostwrite all the articles on these drugs. And, you know, one of the things there is that pretty well the entire literature on any of the SSRIs or the antipsychotics and the cardiac drugs and things like that as well is ghostwritten these days. It's not written by the Professor of Psychiatry in Harvard and Yale, whose name may be on the authorship line. They get paid for having the name of the authorship line, but they haven't written it.